Call the meeting to order for Thursday, February 28th. No public comment, so we will adjourn to closed session. The report out is the board took action in closed session with a unanimous vote to approve the release of 38 temporary certificated staff at the conclusion of the 2018-19 school year. The board also took action in closed session with a unanimous vote to approve the release and/or reassignment of 2 certificated administrators at the conclusion of the 2018-19 school year. We did not finish item 3, so we will return to closed session after the open session meeting. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming, and if you'd please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is board agenda approval.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second the motion.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do we have any employee organizations to talk to us tonight?
We do. We have 2, actually.
Okay, good.
Kate, you want to? Yeah. Oh, just one. Oh, it's just the one.
Just Kate? Okay.
Well, not just Kate. I mean.
Well, sorry, Kate.
Just CEA.
So my name is Kate Lee. I'm here representing our bargaining team and CEA, employee organization. I'm here to let you know that we have ratified our tentative agreements that we reached with the district from earlier this year. And it was voted on our members and almost unanimously voted in. So I also wanted to state how we continue to appreciate the collaborative nature of our interest-based bargaining with the district, and look forward to continuing later this year as we sunshine a new contract and begin our negotiations on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate. Nobody else for? Okay, next we have public comment. Do we have any cards on public comment?
Yes.
Should we give them a choice?
We can give them a choice.
Yeah.
Whether they want to wait for
right.
items 11.1 or 11.2.
Okay, so all of the public comments are on 2 agenda items, 11.1 and 11.2. So would you like to speak now, or would you like to wait until the agenda item comes up? It's your choice. So those of you who have now.
What a choice.
Okay, then I'm just. This one right here wants to go first because they have to leave. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the cards. If you want to defer until it comes up on the agenda, you can tell me at that time. So first is Benaifer Destur and Hung Wei. Oh, just a reminder, 3 minutes. When the buzzer goes off, please wind up your comments quickly. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. First off, congratulations to the new board. I'm so happy to see you all here. Most of you, I've worked with you all on the PTA, so I'm so happy to see you all here. I'm here on behalf of Fremont Union High School Foundation. Just as you have CEF supporting all our middle schools and elementary and your school district, we have Fremont Union High School District Foundation, which supports the 5 high schools, Monte Vista, Cupertino, Lynbrook, Homestead, and Fremont High School. The foundation is having its annual Spring Fling fundraiser on March 29th, and we are here to personally invite you as the school board members, as the superintendent, our assistant superintendents, Jeff, and also the audience who is here. We would love to have you all there. Your kids come to the Fremont Union High School District, and many of you may have older kids, and how important the foundation is. Just we funded this year our school district $325,000. A few samples is for STEM. We gave $145,000. Direct grants to teachers $62,000. And then not only that, we also give the arts and theater, athletics, FBLA, journalism, all the club activities another $55,000. So we hope that you can attend the event and support the foundation.
And we are here to invite you to a party. It's called Spring Fling. We'll have student showcases. We have silent live auctions, wine and hors d'oeuvres and food. But the most important thing is we always say we want to leave our earth clean for our next generation. We really want to leave our earth a next generation that's dedicated, that's good for the earth. So we're here to educate our kids. We need your help to educate our kids. So hope you'll join our Spring Fling. Please visit our Fremont Union High School District Foundation.org, and you can buy tickets directly online, or if you don't, you cannot come, please donate. So this is the only way you can help. We are here to help with our high school kids. They need all the help we can get, and they are great. I love teenagers, and I know we're going to have a great time. So come and have fun with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to leave this with you so that you can put it up in your district office or.
And here are your personal invites.
Thank you, B'nai and Hung. Next, Barbara Fritchen from Eisenhower.
Good evening. Tonight, we, the Eisenhower staff, are here to implore you to fund an intervention specialist position at Eisenhower next year and in the future years. While we understand that the TOSA position is being eliminated next year, we wanted to share with you the reasons that we need an intervention specialist. Our current TOSA has been taking on and fulfilling duties in the same capacity as that of an intervention specialist. This position has had an extremely positive impact on the students at our school. Our TOSA's biggest responsibility is supporting at-risk students who need intervention both behaviorally and academically. She also helps us teachers keep our at-risk kids from falling through the cracks. At Eisenhower, we've been piloting the Collaborative Support Team program, and our TOSA has been coordinating all of the support services designated in these meetings. So far, we have brought 68 students to CST this year, and our TOSA has facilitated the note-taking at all of the CST meetings, and she has coordinated the follow-up for each one of these students to ensure that they are getting the supports that they need. Additionally, throughout the week, from 8:30 to 11:30 every day, she is in the classroom providing targeted supports for academic supports for 25 of these students. CST has proven to be an amazingly beneficial program for our students because we are getting supports to our students sooner than ever than before. However, in order to continue this multiple tiered system of support, we need someone to support the data collection, to support the coordination with teachers and follow up with specialists. We talk about closing the achievement gap, but without an intervention specialist, the achievement gap at Eisenhower will most definitely widen. So I am here asking you, begging you, please fund an intervention specialist position at Eisenhower next year and in future years.
Thank you, Barbara. Next, we have Erin Kelly.
Can't see me very well, so it's not much I can do about that, though. Science gets me every time. Good evening. I am here tonight to ask you to fund an intervention specialist position at Eisenhower this next coming year. We feel strongly we need an intervention specialist at Eisenhower because our student population warrants the need for additional support. In comparison to other schools in the district with similar enrollment numbers, one school had 15 SSTs, while another school had 4 SSTs. This year at Eisenhower, we have 45 SSTs. And that's just at this point this year. There's more coming. And our TOSA has attended 40 of those 45 to this point in the year. Of the 2 other schools, one has approximately about 100 IEPs. The other has 75. Eisenhower, at this point in the year, has already had 150 IEPs, and we're just starting March tomorrow. And we obviously will have more. Our TOSA has also attended and will be attending 10 out of the 10 504 meetings that we have scheduled for our year. Our TOSA has coordinated our PBIS for us for the past 4 years, and we've seen our referrals on campus from 214 in the school year 2015 and 16 down to 141 in 2017 and 18. And this year we're even tracking lower than that number, so a huge impact. The TOSA analyzes all of that PBIS data from yellow cards to referrals and determining what individual support each of those students will need, as well as our school-wide intervention and what each student will need for their success. Without an intervention specialist, there's no way our principal would ever have enough hours in the day to meet the needs of our students, not to mention our at-risk students who have individual needs and providing support for them in the way that our TOSA currently does that. Please allow Eisenhower to continue its upward trajectory of success by funding an intervention specialist, and I'm not above begging. we have that need. As Barb said, not just this next coming year, but in the future years as well. We're a different site than many of the other sites within the district. So thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Jennifer. I don't know if it's leader or leader. Leader.
I'm a little taller than Erin. Not much. Good evening. I am here as well to plead with you to fund an intervention specialist position at Eisenhower in the coming school year and in years beyond. Our current TOSA coordinates and promotes a sense of community at Eisenhower. If we had an intervention specialist, he or she could provide the following services and activities. Twice a week, our current TOSA opens the wildly popular chill room at lunch for students who feel that they would be more successful away from the hectic playground. This is used by both primary and upper grade students. The TOSA coordinates school-wide bucket fillers every month, where the entire school creates a mural of pledges of kindness to build community. Our TOSA coordinates all of our Soul Shop assemblies. The TOSA facilitates monthly PBIS meetings and serves on leadership, FAC, and the technology teams. The TOSA facilitates communication with parents when there is a serious behavior issue and the principal is not available. The TOSA coordinates our check-in and check-out system with our at-risk students. The TOSA organizes our Golden Eagles rewards activities. The TOSA facilitates Everyone Matters Week and Red Ribbon Week. And the TOSA is a liaison for Eisenhower's Soul Shop, Recess 101, CSMA, and Project Cornerstone programs. It is obvious that all of our students benefit greatly from having someone who coordinates community building on our campus, as an intervention specialist would do for us. Without it, our students will be the ones who lose out. Therefore, we implore you, we beg, we plead for you to fund an intervention specialist for next year at Eisenhower and the following years.
Thank you. Next we have Chella.
Really hard to say. Chella Slimak.
Slimak?
Slimak.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Really, nobody says right. Good evening. I am here also to plead with you to fund an intervention specialist position at Eisenhower for next year and for the following years. Eisenhower does not qualify as a Title I school, so we don't receive additional funds from this source as a few of the other schools in our district do. Therefore, Eisenhower is technically at the bottom of the funding ranking. There are several schools in our district who have private educational foundations that fund TOSA positions. However, Eisenhower's unique population is not one who can financially support such a foundation. Therefore, we rely on the district to provide support for our students' needs when our community is unable to. We know how much you value offering our students a personalized education. And we know that you believe in trying to provide an equitable education to each student in Cupertino Union School District. We know that you believe all students deserve the opportunity to be in a learning environment that can achieve this goal. Therefore, we urge you to fund an intervention specialist at Eisenhower Elementary School. Please give our students the opportunity and resources to be as successful as all other students in our district.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Shilpi.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Shilpi Jain. I'm the office secretary. So you have heard all the amazing things that our TOSA does. From an office standpoint, let me explain what it means to us. So let me tell you a little bit about our school. It's highly demanding school, whether it is about the discipline or dealing with the needs of parents. She works with parents and students beyond the attendance letter. She does first round of intervention, investigation, and coaching, and she's amazing. Along with that, every month we have 200 plus kids sent to the nurse's office. That includes the head injury, and we have nurse only once a week. You can imagine what that means to us. She always helps us alleviate our work. Our TOSA is amazing, indispensable asset to Eisenhower community. Please fund this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Shilpi. Next, Randy Lyon.
I'm getting a phone call. No, I wasn't sure that I was going to talk, and then they said, no, you should do this. This is, all I'm going to do is give you a third grade team's impression of why we feel we need an intervention specialist. So pardon me, I'm going to read it as best I can, but this was a team effort. It's the whole third grade team. So we said the students and teachers at Eisenhower Elementary desperately need an intervention specialist. Without this essential position, the students at Eisenhower will suffer immensely. This intervention specialist position will support the following programs already utilized and in place at Eisenhower. We've talked about the CST process. We've talked about parent meetings, scheduling and coordinating, attending follow-up, documenting the IEP, the 504s, the SST. And again, there have, according to our third grade calculations, we figured there were over 190 meetings already this year. And of course, we're not done. One-on-one work with at-risk students, either with behavior or support for students that don't have IEPs in place. For Soul Shop, we talked about the fact that our TOSA or an intervention specialist possibly could be one of the liaisons for some of our special programs. PBIS, gathering data, the yellow cards tracking what's successful, what's not in terms of our behavior programs. You've heard about the chill room, so important for some of the kids that just don't seem to fit with those playground games. Project Cornerstone, I don't think that's been mentioned. Again, building building the skills for kids to deal with each other, solve their problems, just be good with each other. Recess 101, art and music schedules, all that. Without an intervention specialist, the third grade teams that feels that many or all of these effective programs will either be eliminated or definitely negatively affected. This will impact the students because they will have less support, guidance, choice, and opportunity for success. An intervention specialist is an essential piece to supporting our unique and diverse student population here at Eisenhower. And we sincerely hope you will consider an intervention specialist for our school in the future.
Thank you, Randy. So we have one speaker on 11.2. Kevin, do you want to speak now, or do you want to wait till it comes up on the agenda? Okay. Thank you, Eisenhower folks, for coming. This is Kevin's card. That's the last one I've got.
Good evening, Dr. Baker, Executive Committee members, and Board of Education members. My name is Kevin Jenkins, and I understand due to the lack of work and/or funding, my position is being considered for elimination tonight. I have given you all a package that is a summary of the Energy Management Program. When I began my career at Cupertino in November of 2010, the overall program savings was about $3 million. Currently, the overall program savings through October 2018 is over $13 million, an increase of $10 million. The performance year for the district is October through September of each year. The last performance year prior to me starting with the district, the savings was $894,000. The latest performance savings year is $1.6 million. which is an increase of $729,000. Also, through Proposition 39 program, we are in the process of upgrading all exterior and some interior lighting to LED fixtures. This includes all middle school gyms, as well as complete upgrade of the district warehouse, which includes a cool roof, white backing R30 insulation, and LED lighting upgrade. A 10-year cash flow analysis shows the district will be receiving savings of over $4.1 million. Recycling compost program, which we began at the beginning of this year. Through monitoring of our trash service at all of our sites, it was determined several sites had more trash service than was necessary. In January and February of this year, we decided to right-size the service, which will give us an annual savings of $60,000. Right now, except for our San Jose schools, we purchase our power through energy, purchase our energy through Silicon Valley Clean Energy, which has so far given us a $29,000 savings on our energy bills. Other tasks and things we've done over the years. Last year we participated in Earth Day, first time in the district's history, because I thought it would be a good opportunity to market the district, and we actually had Eisenhower and Sedgwick students come and present. 4 times a year we do a shutdown at all 25 schools. I go out and turn off items that are not controlled by the energy management system. We have 2 systems where I can control 25 schools, their HVAC units, and all of their exterior lighting. We have a database called Energy Hat Pro, which on a monthly basis I update with all of our utility invoices for every site. So it gives us a chance, it gives us a way to control and understand our costs. And on the reports that I've given you tonight, they generate the cost savings reports that you see. Work orders. Well, one thing we've done recently, or a lot of, is we'll get calls and emails from school sites about condition in classrooms or office space. They come into the secretaries of the operation and maintenance. Before they're made a work order, they bring it to my attention, and through our energy management system, if I can fix it, we eliminate work orders, because then it takes me 15 minutes to change something. That's a cost savings to the district. So first of all, I understand that, I have about 30 seconds. I understand that I don't do this all alone. Many people contribute to the program, including our maintenance staff and all of our sites and principals. I'm sorry. But honestly, I believe that as the face of the program, I have established relationships with all these contributors. I wasn't going to do this, which has greatly enhanced the results of the program.
Thank you, Kevin. We need to have you stop. Thank you. Moving on to consent items. These are items that a lot of them we discussed at the last meeting on the agenda and agreed to bring them back under consent, and some of them are new to us. So I would like a motion for the consent items.
I move to approve items 9.1 through 9.6.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to discussion, 5th grade Human Growth and Development Task Force update. Allison, would that be you?
It's the human growth, right?
Okay, so we have been working hard to move forward with our process to select new materials for 5th grade. And tonight I wanted to give you an update on how that's going, highlight some of the concerns that we know we want to address, and give you a chance to ask for more information or ask any clarifying questions that you might need to know, or things that you hope that we'll consider in our next phase of work. We have our next task force meeting coming up next week, and then we'll be coming back to you in mid-March with a recommendation for piloting. So I'll tell you what we've been up to. So I just want to take a few minutes at the beginning to remind us of the timeline and what we set out to do, and then we'll get into the updates and get to your questions. So just starting with that calendar. In last spring, the board directed staff to begin the process this school year of selecting new instructional materials for human growth and development in grade 5. So after we had the 7th grade in place and adopted, we were setting to update the materials for 5th grade, which we haven't had in place for a few years now. But we had been teaching previously. So in the fall we came and we talked about our process, and we said that we really wanted to prioritize community engagement throughout the process so that all stakeholders could have multiple avenues for finding out about what we're working on, expressing their thoughts and ideas and questions all along the way. So that's really what we've been doing. We've assembled the task force and we've been meeting, and we're kind of midway here getting to that recommendation for piloting, and then we'll be testing out those materials in the classrooms this spring. So our goal that we expressed this fall was to identify more than one option for piloting in the classrooms this spring. And so that's what we're on track to finish with our recommendation, is bringing you the curriculum choices that we think would be the best fit for piloting this spring. So in the fall, we sent out communications. We had our board meeting. We've been trying to do lots of reach out all along the way to community with email blasts, as well as posting all of the meeting materials online. And each time we post the meeting materials and agenda, we have a little feedback form where people can review that and then send us comments. So that's been a great process. We got a lot of comments in the early phase, and not so much lately, but now we're doing our in-person curriculum viewing session. So we had 4 of those recently. We finished those up today. We had some during the day, some during the evening hours for any community member to come and look through the materials and hear what the task force has been up to, and then we have another feedback form that we're collecting reflections on. We also have we have lots of staff members on our team, but we have a optional staff viewing session next week as well. We know also that these informational sessions have been an opportunity, but once we determine what we'll be piloting in the classrooms, we will hold detailed parent information sessions that explain exactly what the children would be learning, and that's legally required, and in our hearts, of course, we'd want to do that to be sure we're partnering and everybody had all of the information. So we came to you in the fall, and we promised updates along the way, and we're mid-process. Our task force has 17 members, and we've been working with Heidi, our consultant from Cardia. We've met 4 times, and for 2-hour chunks, plus we've had outside homework to catch up on for the next meeting. And our task force is a really great group. We have lots of different perspectives. So we tried to go for, parents from across the district, lots of different grade levels, lots of 5th grade teachers. We took every 5th grade parent who submitted by the deadline and wanted to be on. We even have a TK parent. There's a big range from lots of different schools. We also have an elementary school principal as well as our district nurse on the team. So it's been really great to hear perspectives and to work together. We are looking at these 3 curriculum options, and as we said in the fall, we pulled options that were designed for the 5th grade years and that met the legal requirements, and that would provide local options for training both teachers and parents. So we're looking at Puberty Talk, which is published by Health Connected, Positive Prevention Plus, which is the same publisher as our 7th grade material, but the elementary curriculum, and then the Rights, Respect, Responsibility curriculum, also known as the 3 Rs. That one is free, open source, available to anybody, and available online. So in addition to thinking about the legal requirements that we know we're required to pay attention to and follow, we also are thinking more broadly as we're looking through these options. And we're asking ourselves, do the methods of teaching and the level of information, does it feel like a fit for 5th graders here in Cupertino? We know that all the materials are hitting on those learning standards that are designated for 5th grade. They're all age appropriate, but this is that local piece of asking, is it a fit for our kids? And do we feel it's sensitive to the needs of our diverse community? Is the curriculum accessible and supportive of parents? And then some nuts and bolts questions. How many days does it take? What's the cost? What would it take to train teachers? What are our neighbors using? And what are the potential topics of concern in our district, and how specifically are those areas being addressed? So we've been working together and diving in. I love these photos because it just shows the commitment that everybody's bringing to this work. We've just been really getting into that reflection and analysis phase. We had our publisher presentations, but then we started analyzing the components to be sure that we're really looking at those hot topics and how they're addressed in the different areas to see which ones feel like the right fit. So the topics for 5th grade, we think that will be somewhere in the range of 4 to 7 lessons. And the kind of chunks of learning are around puberty, anatomy and reproduction, and hygiene. Hygiene has been, everyone agrees, that's the #1 thing we need to cover in 5th grade. Just, you know, it's that time of development. So healthy, unhealthy relationships and boundary and communication skills. So this is about being assertive and being able to know what your plan would be if you were in a situation. Sometimes it's just a friendship situation where you don't want to go along with something that a friend may suggest. Gender identity and sexual orientation, and then there's also a getting started lesson, so that's setting the tone for classroom communication. So we've been collecting lots of feedback all along the way, and I wanted to tell you what we've heard so far. This is not everything because we've still been in process with the community meetings. So we're continuing to analyze along the way, although I think we're really capturing the big themes that we're hearing. And I know that we can address these things. So the first one is that parents want specific information. Parents want to know exactly what is going to be taught. And we've received some comments and also some notes from parents saying, thank you for bringing this back into the curriculum because I really want my child to get this information. Because the kids are changing. Some kids' bodies are changing in 5th grade, and some parents really want kids to get that information at that time. Other parents really don't want their children to get that information at school, and so we're not all in agreement about that part. Teachers need support and materials, and we know that schools need flexibility in determining when they would teach this unit because the teachers are thinking about all the science and health and wellness and everything else that goes on at school. We also know that the kids will be learning about this in 5th grade, but they'll also have an opportunity to learn in 7th and then in high school because the middle school and high school pieces are required by CHIA. So we know that this is a stepping stone approach. We don't have to give the kids all the information in 5th grade. We could think about it like a stepping stone approach. So we know that we will provide parents, we must and we want to be sure that parents have exactly the information about what will be taught. We will have parent information sessions, just like we do for 7th grade, where we kind of go, it's like a page by page. In lesson 1, this is what the kids will learn. And then in lesson 2. We also would follow the same process that we have for 7th grade where we provide a syllabus. It's a very detailed letter that says to parents on day 1, we would be teaching these concepts. On day 2, it would be these concepts. Parents can refer back to the curriculum at the school site if they have questions, and they can decide to opt in or opt out. So opting out means you could say that your child will not participate in any lessons at all, or it could be by choice, by lesson, participating in some or all. So also, of course, we would want to be sure, and we're required by law to be sure that the teachers are trained before they're teaching it, and we want to be sure they would have their curriculum materials. They could select when they would want to do this, as long as we're doing it after the training and after the parent information sessions. Also on the task force, we've been talking about that stepping stone idea, and we have a set of standards that are put out by the state. This was attached to the board docs, so we have a list of the learning goals that the state has said are appropriate for 5th grade. That health framework is in the process of revision, and we're not mandated to cover every single standard on that list. So we are required to address the things that are part of the law, the California Healthy Youth Act. So in our stepping stone thinking, we're thinking that as a first step, we would probably recommend to just take the required lessons as a first step. So one of the ones that we've been talking about is around HIV transmission. It's on the list as a 5th grade standard, but it is not required by CHIA. And the level of detail that the lessons go into regarding fluid exchange was something that the task force thought was maybe a little bit too much information. So that's an example. Okay, so we are in the process. We just finished our community viewing sessions today. Next week it will be staff. The task force will reconvene to consider all of the different feedback and our analysis of the lessons. We've been digging in by topic and taking a look at how the materials presented across the different options. We're also going to talk about the idea of, should we teach the children together, boys and girls in one classroom, or should we recommend separating by gender? So we have this scheduled to talk about at the task force. We know that this is a question that's coming up a lot in the community. We also know that we can't find any local examples of people separating the kids, and we're not doing that in 7th grade. So it's going to be an interesting discussion at the task force, and we're planning to share our thoughts based on what best practices are in the field, what we're hearing from community, and we'll see how that part goes. I'll be bringing that back next time. So we're coming into the recommendation for pilot, and then once we determine what we'll be piloting, we'll need to decide. Some schools would be piloting one, and some schools would be piloting another, potentially, if we're on track to bring you two. And we would start the parent information sessions and training sessions pretty immediately after that next board meeting. We have a short amount of time to be sure we're getting all of this done. Training, information sessions, implementing, and then collecting the feedback this spring. So we would see how it's going with the students, the parents, and the teachers this spring, and then hopefully in June be able to share that with you and make our recommendation for adoption. If we needed more time, we could stretch that into fall and still be ready to deliver an adopted curriculum next school year, since it's just a short amount of teaching days. So that's what we've been up to. It's been really wonderful to hear from community members, work with the task force, and learn more about what's important to our teachers and our community about this subject matter, and I'm excited to just see where it lands as we go forward. What else can I do to help you be ready for that next step?
Thank you, Allison. This is a discussion item, so how about we start with clarifying questions, and then we can discuss after we all get our questions answered. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so who has questions? Okay, Satish, go ahead.
It's not good that in between. Okay, so I think couple of things on task force. Like the selection process, is it like individuals apply and they were selected based on some criteria?
Yes.
Or
yes, so we sent it out to all parents, and we said that we would be looking for participation from across the community, so looking at different schools and different grade levels, all kinds of community members, and that we wanted people who would bring a collaborative spirit to the process, so to be able to think about the district as a whole, in addition to, of course, everybody's thinking about, you know, their own child too, but to be willing to work on that broader goal. And so we also said that we would do a lottery if we had to, but really as we worked through it and we were looking through, do we have somebody from TK? Do we have somebody from second grade? It was a good process. We used the comments that they put on the form to be able to assemble the group that reflected that balance and that commitment. And we ended up with just through that process.
Is this 17 number a hard number, or just we got 17 people on that?
Why did we make it 17?
17,
We wanted
yeah.
it to be a manageable group, and we knew that we needed to have a big chunk of 5th grade teachers, because that's part of our policy around when we have a new curriculum that's specific to a grade level. So we were also thinking about how many teachers do we have volunteering, or we had been pulling them, so we knew we had to maintain a good chunk of teachers, so we couldn't have like a lot more parents and only some teachers based on policy. So that was part of it too. A manageable group and making sure that we had balance between parents and teachers.
Should I wait for others, or I can have
Let's
one?
wait.
Okay.
Let's wait. Anybody else have a question before we go back to Satish? Sylvia?
Yeah, so first I just want to say I really appreciate just the transparent process that you guys have taken with the 5th grade curriculum, because I know that was not the same way with 7th grade originally, and so it's very clear that it's been a very open process, which is great. I appreciated the questions that the task force was asking, and if you can, yeah, thank you. I was curious about that last question, and if you had actually gotten any feedback, any answers to that. Like, I'm interested in if there are any specific topics that you. What are the topics of concern? Yes. Well, I mean, they definitely vary depending on the person we're talking to, but there are themes that are coming up. So should we teach together or separate by gender is one. The topics under the HIV lessons, definitely. For some parents, the gender identity and sexual orientation lessons, those are required under the new law, and they were not part of the original 5th grade puberty curriculum that we had, but as part of the new requirement under CHIA. So the way that is delivered, we've been working, when we have the in-person meetings, we can ask people a little bit more about what's on their mind about that, and sometimes we're able to answer the questions by showing what's in the lesson about that. It's mainly around, we're required to make sure that we're offering an inclusive and affirming curriculum for all kids. So in the social emotional lesson around bullying, for example, that's a topic that comes up, that we wouldn't want to be bullying somebody because of their. Yeah. So sexual orientation and gender identity is it's one of those kind of hot topics, but for some people, when we look at what's in the lesson, their worries go away, and for some not, but it's definitely one of the topics that some parents have told us they may want to opt out on for that lesson, because parents can choose. So all of the programs include line drawings of body parts, and for some people, that's an area of concern. There's other things too. I think it depends on who we're talking to, but we're trying to be considering those different areas. So what are the materials that the kids are seeing? How are these hot topics addressed in the specific lessons? And looking at what our neighbors are doing too for the different curriculum options.
Okay, you have a question, Jerry?
I have 3 questions.
Well, start with one.
All right. No, but first of all, Allison, I wanted to thank you for taking the community through this process. I've talked to a number of folks, and I think, irregardless of the views, I think people have really appreciated this process in terms of transparency and the opportunity to get input into the system. So thank you. I know this is not you have a lot on your plate. So 3 questions. First of all, in terms of the timeline. So basically on March 14th, you're coming back to us with a recommendation, and I'm assuming that's a pretty firm, we need to make a decision because we want to go into a pilot. And then basically then what happens after the pilot is then you have on there June 13th, but as you mentioned, potentially if issues came up or whatever, we could make that decision later. I just want to confirm that's the case. We have a sort of a more firmer deadline, and then the June one is
Definitely. Right. So the initial phase is just which options will we bring into the piloting phase, but then we can see how that goes. We may be ready in June, maybe not. And typically, it's been my experience that the teachers usually like to teach this towards the end of the school year as the kids are maturing. So I think we would have a window of time to keep going with the conversations, and we wouldn't feel rushed necessarily in the fall if we needed to.
Okay, that makes sense. If I could ask my other 2 real quick, or should I?
Let's go around and we'll come back to you.
Right.
Lori?
So I just want to clarify, confirm that we're still talking about partial opt-out for this, right? For no matter which curricula we pilot and no matter which curricula we ultimately may or may not choose to adopt, we're always talking about partial opt-out being available? Lesson
that
by
actually
lesson?
is legally required, that we offer parents full or some. Yes.
Okay, I know the full opt-out is legally required, but now partial is as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I just have one. When you talked about opt-out, you talked about opt-in or opt-out. There is no opt-in, right? There's only an opt-out.
We're not allowed to require opt-in. Yes.
Right.
So we need to give the parents the information and then explain what would be taught day by day, and then parents actually would write a letter to the principal. We actually are not allowed to even have a form, or it has to be a letter to the principal explaining what they want their child to participate in or not. But yes, it's opt-in for all unless a parent
opt-out.
Opt-out. Thank you for
Okay,
clarifying.
great.
Yes.
Thank you. So I want to go back around again. Did you have another question? No? Okay, Satish, you did,
Yes,
I know.
I have one second question. So one is this outcome of this task force, right? So is it like kind of an yes or no, or it kind of a fine-tuned approach? Like you have a bunch of things which you start decide, or we are, as per the CHIA requirement, you have to have certain things, and you fine-tune that, you add, delete, modify, or it's yes or no kind of.
Do you mean the curriculum itself, or?
Yeah, curriculum, or what would be the, like 14th when you are presenting it? Is it going to be something like, this is what we are going to do it? Or what are the options they have for the task force in general, or the outcome of the task force?
They know that we hope that they will recommend 2 options or more, but probably 2 to try. And yes, we have, ideally, we don't imagine ourselves being just totally creating our own, because we want to use the expertise of the published programs and as a basis. So we have told them we're trying to, in the end, get to a core program, but we could make some adjustments if we felt that there were minor shifts that we needed to make it feel like a better fit. So, for example, there are some drawings in some of the options that are not part of the required content, and we could, agree not to use those, or to teach a subset of the lessons in this first piloting phase, the ones that are required, and go from there. So we do have some flexibility, especially knowing that sometimes districts want to supplement. They adopt a core, and then they say we also would like to pull in. We could choose to pull in something from the 3 R's, the free curriculum, saying we really like the way this lesson is. So it could be we adopt this and this. We tell the parents exactly what those lessons are, and that could work. So a core with flexibility is part of the options, and that is true for other curricular areas too. You know, when we're looking at materials, we want to have a core, but there can be flexibility. Mm-hmm.
Jerry?
Well, I think one of my questions is close to Satisha, so maybe I'll just add to. So what's coming back on the 14th then essentially is going to be a recommendation, thumbs up, thumbs down, as opposed to, you can imagine another form where your choice is A, B, and C. Please choose one. So it looks like it's likely going to be more the former. You know, we like this one, but maybe not parts of this, and you know, you teach it in this way. I guess I'm trying to understand. Should I be expecting a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of choice, or basically choose one of N? Does that make sense?
So do you mean thumbs up or thumbs down on the curriculum as a whole?
As a particular recommendation, like this is what we recommend going forward. Whether it's one or two, right, but am I making
for the pilot, or do you mean for the final selection?
I mean for the pilot.
For the pilot.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that it's going to be, we are recommending a curriculum to be piloted. However, I think we will, I mean, we haven't had the final meeting yet, but we could be prepared to have fewer than the total lessons that are in that binder, because some are not required, for example. So we want to, there's no perfect curriculum. We don't want to make it so complicated that, you know, there's confusion about what we're teaching or not. That has to be clear. But we don't want to set aside a curriculum that is mostly feels like a great fit, but maybe there's, you know, one part that just is not resonating with people. So we're trying to be flexible, but not flexible, but still clear and, you know, going forward. Yeah.
Thanks.
Lori, did you have another question?
I'm good right now. Thank you.
Anybody else have another question? Satish, go ahead.
Right. So the pilot program, it is for how many schools?
All schools. So that's something that is different about this process than most piloting that we do, but it was part of our, I think part of the thinking last spring, and definitely part of the discussion this fall, that we would want to be sure that all students, unless their parents opted out for them, that all students had an opportunity to learn the material at school this year, because many community members feel that we've been missing this information, and our 7th grade teachers have told us that the kids are really not coming in with the foundational knowledge they need for the 7th grade curriculum. So we're addressing that by doing some teaching of material that's part of the 7th grade appendix on puberty and anatomy, but it's really the younger student learning goals, the puberty, anatomy, those pieces. So we are planning to pilot in all classrooms and provide the opt-out in all classrooms this spring, and collect the information from students, teachers, and parents about what they thought about that, and see where that goes.
So we will vote for whether to pilot or not, or is it the curriculum? What is that on 14th we do?
So we're going to bring you the curriculum choices that we think should be piloted, and we'll explain why those were selected based on our local criteria and the legal requirements. We'll explain our thinking, and we are going to ask for your support so we can move forward, because we need to get going with the training and the parent education soon after that.
Lori?
Sorry, so just to clarify on that, what you just said, so all classrooms with opt-out available, but everyone at one site would be receiving one curricula, is that correct?
I think that is mostly going to be true. We may have one exception, possibly. We have a lot of constraints around when the trainers are available, when the teachers are available, and they're not taking other field trips or other things, so that is our goal. But we may have to be flexible if there's an unavoidable conflict, but I'm working on trying to arrange that. We can't really nail that all down until we know our plans, so it's a little tricky. But I have a lot of things on hold right now until we're ready to move forward.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're ready for discussion. Do we want to give any specific direction to Allison about, or you want?
to share or anything.
Yeah, any concerns? Yeah.
Okay,
Satish?
okay. I think I still some clarification or discussion, what do we call it? The 14th, right? So we are getting option 1, option 2, option 3, something like that, or you are saying that these are the 4 options which you are going to try it out, or 1 out of this 4 or 3 we will be taking it out.
So we are looking at 3 in our review process, and to me it looks like we're probably going to bring 2 as a recommendation, and we're really going to show you the work of the task force. The task force was charged with, reviewing it and making a recommendation, and we're going to bring that to you with all of the reasoning in hopes that we can take our next steps and begin that work. Is that answering your question?
Can I just add to that one?
Sure.
I just want to make sure people understand the process, that when we put together a curriculum task force, they are given the task of coming back with a recommendation, which for a pilot will often be more than 1, right? But we don't know what they're going to come back with because that's their job. And so I don't want you thinking that we went in and our goal was to get them to come back with 1. That is not what happened. And so we will see. It sounds like it's likely leaning in a let's try out 2 as a pilot, but we don't know that, and we don't want to presuppose it, because then you're kind of telling them what the end game was, right? And that's not the point of it. So our goal was to say, let's look at it all. Let's understand that it would be great to pilot more than 1, because then it's a better pilot. So let's see where we get, and we want to honor the work of that task force in what they bring forth to you, so that you know that that was genuinely from them, not something that we somehow decided and then used them as a way to get there, right? So that's a really important distinction. That therefore we can't tell you exactly what they're going to bring forth, because we don't know.
Yeah.
Any other discussion, comments? Satish, did you have something else before we go to Laurie?
No, just to make it. So if you have, let's say, hypothetically 2 recommendations, and both will be piloted, not that we pick 1 out of that 2, right?
Eventually, we will pick 1.
Eventually.
No, but during the pilot, it could be both.
We could do.
Okay.
Right, yes, so that's our standard process for piloting. Like right now we've been doing that with reading, and we have the 2 options, because sometimes something looks great on paper and we think it will be good, but then when we use it with the kids, we realize it's not so good. So it's good to have more than 1 option so that we can really fulfill the vetting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Laurie.
So since this is my chance to talk with the 5 of us together, so one of my concerns, just based on how much I've heard about it in the last few years, is that we did have a gap for a few years in presenting this curricula, and we know that this year's 7th graders will get the catch-up portion before they take the 7th grade curricula. We do have this cohort that's in 6th grade right now, and I wanted to see how everybody felt about maybe if we could ask staff to just maybe reissue a targeted message to those 6th grade students and families, just with what resources we do have available, because I know that we do on our website have some resources available. I know those were pushed out at the time we kind of made the decisions about 7th grade. I don't know how long ago was that now, 18 months ago. But I'm wondering if how people would feel about maybe revisiting that just with that 6th grade cohort as a kind of preemptive, your students will be getting this next year. If you're getting questions at home, here are some resources we can recommend.
When would you see us doing that, timeline-wise?
With this current 6th grade cohort, so sometime between now and the end of the year. No, 6th grade. So the current 6th graders who did not get, so our 6th graders who did not get a 5th grade curriculum and who won't get a 7th grade curriculum until next year, if maybe we just could republish, targeted directly at them, what resources we do have available. We have that list that's compiled of reading and local community resources and things like that.
Last year.
Right, I'm just saying.
Same thing.
Yeah,
okay.
Same thing.
Got it.
Yeah, but targeted directly at those families rather than just a general blast. Oh, we did, okay. Okay.
Any other concerns?
Well, do we want to finish Laurie's point first, or is this something that requires board action? Is this just something, sort of a tip for staff?
Sounds like it's something we do anyway.
Right, so we're good.
So did you want more board input on that?
No, I think as long as we are saying we're not going to go, I know we pushed it last year, but I think I'm hearing from families who are still feeling like they don't have something for their students now. So I guess I feel more comfortable if we pushed it one more time.
So are we good with that? Can we do that?
Yeah, if we could conceptually say that, yes, we will do either exactly that or something like it. We understand the intent, but I think I want to make sure we think through all the angles, but if the intent for all of us, which I think it is that we would provide something like that, then we'll come back and say, here's how we're going to do that, and firm that up. If that's,
I would be fine with that.
So just to share some, so I attended one of these sessions earlier today. Just want to share some thoughts. First of all, again, thank you, Allison, for it. It was very well set up. I can imagine the amount of work it took to get all the material together. I think the setup was good. Time was good. There was a lot of opportunities for parents to, or whoever, community members who were there to chat. The one thing I guess I did want to highlight was I felt that was that Heidi? So she's there, I guess, as a subject matter expert, also and I can understand certainly as subject matter experts, you're going to have beliefs on things. I think it was pretty clear what her inclinations were on some of these issues, and I think I just, and certainly you can't get something that's completely neutral, but I just, I guess I like to see if the information could be provided to the community members that are there, as opposed to asserting, for instance, this is a best practice, or there's a case I think with citing statistics that I don't think relevant to our community. So if we could just kind of watch that a bit to kind of make sure things are neutral, as opposed, because I think her preferences are very clear, I think, to the folks that are there. So just want to share that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can I ask you a question? Because that's an important point. I mean, usually subject matter experts are going to do that.
Sure.
Right? They're going to opine. But is the purpose to be a facilitator, in which case we would want some objectivity and a little more, neutral, if you will. So I guess I would just question the purpose, and maybe we need somebody who's a facilitator. But when an expert speaks, they're there to say, here is the best practice. This is what the industry standard is. Here's what best practice is. So I think we just have to be clear on what we're asking for in the people that are there and presenting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So in this case, we were working it together, but mainly I was facilitating. But I thought maybe it would be helpful if she was there, because we have questions about the law or what other districts are doing or what the research says, and she knows a lot about that. But I hear you. I appreciate the comment, and we'll definitely keep that in mind. Yeah.
Anything else? We're on course to hear in the next meeting about the pilots. Sylvia, something?
Yeah, I just had one point, because I also went to one of the viewing sessions and appreciated the chance to see the 3 different curriculums. I'm glad to hear that there is the option of maybe adjusting or adapting some of the individual lessons within some of them, especially like the explicit line drawings, which I think I got a little bit of feedback that they were somewhat more explicit than community was prepared for 5th grade. I have heard that too. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, and I just had one comment, and I'm sure that as you do with 7th grade, when the parents opt out, I hope that we're making it clear to them that that topic could surface at another lesson that they did not opt out of. So just as long as parents are clear that just because they opt out of a particular discussion doesn't mean the child won't hear anything about it. Well, and they'll also hear about it on the playground, but yeah.
Yes, a very important point. I know there's a section of our district letter that says that, and I plan on keeping that.
Very good.
Keeping that in.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Allison. Did you have something? Oh.
Yeah, I want to ask a clarifying question of what you just said in terms of if it comes to the point where you're talking about the difference between a facilitator and a subject matter expert, and we make the decision we need a facilitator for community meetings, I would really appreciate to still have the subject matter expert available to us, because I had a lot of questions, and that was clearly
Absolutely.
Allison and Heidi were
Yeah,
who
no,
I
and
needed
I
to-
wasn't suggesting to eliminate
Yeah,
it.
okay.
My whole point was that it is important when using a subject matter expert to be clear that's why that person's there, and that they aren't there to objectively facilitate something, because
Right.
that is actually the role of somebody else
Yeah.
to do. Yeah. So I think we're in the same place. I agree.
And I felt like we had both
Yeah.
in the room today, because I
Yeah.
felt like Allison was clearly our facilitator, and yeah. But I needed that expert too for me, so thank you.
Another thing to know is that Heidi is helping us with our task force, but she's not a member of the task force. She doesn't, make any of the recommendations. That's the work of the task force. Yeah.
I do have just a point about Heidi, because I attended one of the parent workshops, and she was the one leading it about how to talk to your kids about sex. And so I've seen her interact with the larger community as well, and I think my impression is that she's gotten a good sense of kind of where our community is because of the questions that were being asked and just in her interactions with them.
I know it is not a right question, but still, the task force, when they're talking, how do you feel that? Is it well balanced, or is it like a one-sided way, or like something like that? How is the discussion within the task force?
I would say we've really worked hard in the task force and in the engagement sessions with the community as well to really set the tone that we want all questions to be put on the table. Even if it sounds like a criticism or a concern, those ideas are welcome, and this is why we're doing this work, and we encourage everybody to speak their truth, and let's work together and get it done. And I think that's been happening. We're not always all in agreement, and that's been good. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It was great, Allison. I think you're doing a good job with this community outreach, and appreciate it.
Thank you. I think I'm still up here for the next item.
Oh, you're back for math. Oh, well, all right.
Yeah, here we are.
So this is a continuation of our discussion last meeting about math, and a little more clarity, I think, as I read the materials that they sent us, I think a little more information and a lot of helpful stuff. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we're excited to be back with this topic to pick up where we left off, and also our big charge today is to really focus our attention on where we're headed with our policy, because we know that any kind of work like this, there are iterations, and it's a process that's moving along. So things like, how will that look in terms of teaching methods, or what will the professional development look like? All of those pieces will continue to evolve and grow. And so we won't be really honing in on that tonight, but we know that we're going to keep going with conversations about that as the work grows. What we're hoping to work towards tonight is more clarity on where we're headed in terms of policy, because our policy is kind of like our lighthouse for the work ahead. It's guiding us. It's our aspirational statement of where we want to go, what we hope for our students and our system in support of our students. So we're going to go through a little bit of review information, and then we're going to dive into that policy piece, and we'll be asking you, is this what we're trying to reflect in the policy? As we go along, we'll name some themes, and then we'll say, where are there places in our policy where we really see this? Where do we need to strengthen our policy? What's missing? Which parts are unclear? Because that policy piece will really help us clarify for our whole system where we're trying to go on behalf of our students. So we commit to you that we're going to keep you informed, and we're planning all kinds of fun community sessions around things that are related to this, and we'll have some opportunities for engagement around some of those ideas, like what do we mean by personalizing learning, as we go along. But today we're hoping to give you what you need to help us craft a policy that reflects where we're trying to go. So we want to help you understand the elements and the reasoning of the shifts, and to help you see how those things align with what we're trying to put in policy language, and also we want to know what else you need, what your questions are to help us keep going down that path. So we set out with these purposes. We always want to go back to this because we know that it's not just about math courses, right? This is about our kids and how they feel about themselves as learners and where they're trying to go now and into the future. And so we're always trying to keep an eye on these bigger pieces and to keep in mind the challenges that have come up as we've been working with our community. And we're going to kind of recapture all of that in some themes as we go along. We know that we've had a lot of input around the things that we talked about last time. And in addition to that, we've been, having some other individual conversations and getting feedback. And we're hearing that there are definitely themes that we want to see reflected in our policy and in our next steps. So things like flexibility, knowing that our kids are growing and changing and we need to have flexibility showing up in our policy and in our system. We know that having fair and consistent ways to assess a student's mastery of skills is also really critical. And we're hearing that we want to see that reflected in our policy. We know that our kids, every learner is different, and so that idea of personalizing learning, not having a one-size-fits-all approach, is also something that's popping up in our conversations as a theme. And the opportunity for our kids and parents to have voice and choice in the process, to feel a sense of ownership on the kids' part and a sense of partnership on the parents' part. So we're coming back today with a reflection of how we're trying to have those things show up and to see if we're hitting the mark. So this was just a reminder. We won't go detail by detail on this, but this was that visual that we showed last time when we talked about the different steps along the way.
Slightly different. Didn't we revise it to take out the column so it's a little?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
A little bit different.
That out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so it looks a little bit different. There's some white space there, and what we're sharing is that that pathway, or that starting point that begins at Math 6. We've got that on-level piece, but we're trying to demonstrate that there's two endpoints that are there, even if the kids are starting on grade level, going all the way through our system, they can still end up at those AP courses by 12th grade. And then we're also showing that the Math 6 Plus as a starting point can have two different possibilities, actually many possibilities, because there is some flexibility moving throughout. So it's not perfect yet, but we're trying to show a little different version of it. So I hope that that helps to clarify, and we'll keep on working at that to make it a little bit more clear. I think I'm on.
Yeah. I think I'm on this and you're on the next one,
Okay,
right?
good.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about those themes that are showing up in the feedback, one of those is the idea of flexibility and personalization. And it's that idea that there's one path of learning, but it's flexible along the way and the pace might be varied. That kids need different things. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, that we need to be able to be flexible and adaptive to our kids' needs, and we need to ensure that our kids have access to advanced courses as they go forward. And so we talked about the ways that we would approach that in the last meeting, and then tonight in the policy and AR, we just wanted to call out some of the places where we see that really showing up, where we're trying to have it show up with the language. And it's not on the slide, but I also wanted to point out that we know that we want to be thinking about this not just for our incoming sixth graders, because we have kind of a phased approach in mind, but we also want to bring back to you some clarification about the kids currently in the system. So we tried to do a little reflection on that in the grandfathering language in the exhibits, but we know that that's an area that we want to bring back some additional detail on to explain how that would look. So we're going to go through the themes and we'll point out the places that we think it's showing up, and then we'll see if you feel like it's a fit. So I don't think I'll read the sections of the policy since I know you have seen this already, and we'll keep going.
All right, so another section or theme that we're really looking at is mastery, as Allison was talking about. We really want to make sure that that within especially the administrative regulations that we can share the details of how we're going to be tracking progress in addition to the work that's happening inside the classroom. So we are interested in having students also be a part of that, where they can track their own progress as well as the teachers, so that eventually they will be in charge of their own learning and really, own it. We want students to own it. And we also want multiple measures to help inform us of where they are at any given time. We want them to be able to spiral back and make sure that they really have learned their math. So many of these elements are a part of that flexibility that we're talking about and how we're going to address it through those personalized learning goals, the mastery-based criteria, and those diagnostics. So many, many ways. What we don't want is to just push kids through a system without having that deep foundational understanding of math. So we want to make sure also that the pace fits the learning needs of the students. And then the next theme that we want to talk about is the social emotional learning and student voice. This has been something that has come up so many times. I met with most of the 6th grade math teachers yesterday, and they were raising that up too, that it's something that they really value. So focusing on the whole child, building the growth mindset, helping students to see how to challenge themselves, but also to recognize that maybe they're not there yet, but they'll get there. So just changing all of the thinking around math. We're going to have to spend some time on this. In addition, we want to support students in building empathy for each other, and again, also building their own self-reflective skills and their ownership for learning. So that is all kind of worked into that too. And we're seeing that through that personalization process, we can also support the social emotional learning. So we're really looking forward to that. So we've got elements from the board policy that address that, and then also from the administrative regs. So these are the big themes that we try to kind of lift out and show you where it's represented.
So we're hoping today to check to see if these are the themes that we're trying to reflect in the policy, to see if that is showing up in the language of the policy, and also to see what else you might need as we're preparing for our next steps in getting to a final policy. We know that sometimes the feedback can be, maybe it's like a wordsmithing piece of feedback, and we welcome that too. We invite you to send that kind of feedback to us directly. I think there was an example of, like, we had administrators crossed out in one section where it shouldn't have been. There might be little errors like that, or typo kinds of things. So those things can come directly to us, and we'll work it through in preparation for bringing back the next revision. But today we're hoping to really keeping that lighthouse idea in mind, are these the big kind of pillars that we want to see in our policy so that we can consider that a guiding light as we're putting our next steps into place and really working with our teachers to define what the professional development will look like and what this will mean for teaching methods. That's going to be an ongoing process where we work with the teachers. Okay, so.
Hey, questions, comments?
I'll go ahead and start. So I want to talk a bit about personalized learning. So certainly you've talked about having this path and then basically being able to personalize the pace. But if you look at what vendors offer out there in the literature, there's actually other aspects of personalization around what kind of content, around how you present that content. So I just wanted to sort of maybe just sync up in, is our focus on primarily the pace, or are you looking, considering other aspects of personalized learning?
We're definitely considering many aspects of it, and we're starting to dig into it right now. There are teachers, math teachers, that are trying out various aspects. They're looking at ways to have targeted instruction based on data that they're gathering in the classroom. They're also working on goal setting with the students and really working on that self-reflection. So there's many elements that we're working on. The targeted instruction, we're looking at small group instruction. And so then how is the rest of the class structured to be able to do that? So that's where we're looking at having opportunities for kids to work independently on tasks that are assigned, or maybe they're working collaboratively on a problem that they have been, something that has been initiated as a whole class. So there's many different pieces. We're also exploring some adaptive software to support this process as well. So there's a lot of different pieces that are all sort of in the works right now. Yeah.
Can I just add a little something to it? So, the terminology of personalized learning is tough because, and people much greater than I have said that it really should be personalizing learning and not personalized, because personalized is something that happens to you, and then it sounds like you're getting a curriculum or it's a program, or it's not, right? This is a way of thinking about making it personal to children, allowing them to have a pace that makes sense for them. It implies mastery, that you're moving along at a pace that once you show that you are competent, you are moving on to another level, but it isn't a program. And so that's one of the problems when you do research online about, what is personalized learning in particular, you will see strange bedfellows in there, because some of them are actually selling something. That's a program, but that is not what we are doing. I just want to be really clear. We are not trying to introduce a new program or curriculum. It's an approach and a way of thinking about, and it ties back to why do you need flexibility? Because kids are in different places, and the pace really does matter. And some children learn things, and they can all get there, but they learn it at a different pace. So how do you make a curriculum that helps you get there, or approach to curriculum to do that? Yeah.
Sure. So just to follow up, I think what I'm hearing here then is, so there's a pace that's personalized, or whatever the term is. There's a core curriculum that everybody will see. So let's just say Lori and I are in the same class, and she's really good at science, and I'm a little slow, right? So I'm moving kind of slow, and she's going faster. It is possible then for her to be exposed to more content, right? Because she could look deeper into things. Whereas, so there would be some, I guess, differences in the content that the students are exposed to. So I'm just wanted to see if this is consistent with the philosophy you have in mind right now. Or is it just everybody sees the same content, the only variable is how fast you go down the railroad track? Does that sort of make sense? I'm trying to...
Yeah. So I'll use an example that we already have in place, writing workshop. That's a personalized or personalizing model. So in that case, we have a core set of lessons that we want all kids to get. Some schools are implementing reading workshop too. It's the same idea. There's a lesson that's delivered to the whole class, but it doesn't take up the whole period. It's a mini lesson that we want everybody to hear. And then the work time is where the personalizing occurs. So in writing workshop, that might mean a student is digging in a research essay and they're just going for it and they're the only kid that's writing on that topic maybe. It might mean some kids are working with the teacher because they need help with conventions in writing and only those kids need that, so the other kids might not be getting it. So it's more of that kind of idea that we know what we want from an equity lens every kid to be exposed to, but then the kids' needs are kind of all over the place at any given moment, so we want to be able to meet those needs too. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I?
Satish.
Yeah, I think the last bullet. I thought that this is only while now the initial discussion or decision when you are coming up. Once this is implemented, or this one, is there a parent or a student can voice on their choice, or what my understanding is there will be a placement test and based on that it goes right forward.
So we want to be sure that the kids are in the best match course for them. So that involves looking at the criteria and the assessments to be sure we know which standards they've mastered. But one piece that we really heard a lot about in the feedback was that, you know, parents want to feel partners in the process, and they want it to be more proactive. They want to know how the kids are doing along the way, progress updates, and to be able to say what they think their child needs. And sometimes that involves long-term goals, you know, about strengths they've noticed in their child and where they hope they can help their child get, you know, in high school or beyond. So really, we're still working out how that might look, but we know that we want to have early in the process, not in an appeal after the fact moment, but early on, let's build that partnership and have ongoing communication so that, you know, we know what's on parents' minds. We help kids take ownership for their learning. It doesn't mean that we just thought, you know, everybody should just choose the course that they wanted to go in, but that we would work in partnership to try to find the best match and to be sure that when there's a mismatch, sometimes, you know, we're not really seeing the same things, and that's an important conversation too, right? Like maybe in one at home or at school, the level of competency might be different. So that's really important too, to just sync up before that moment of course placement comes.
If I need to add to that if I can, do you mind?
No, you can, you should.
So thank you. That's kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do think there, to some degree, the question you're asking moves us out of policy a little bit, and we're starting to get into how we go about it, and all of a sudden it's less about what are the policy elements we want in there. To some degree, yes, we want voice and choice so that we are partnering. That's an important thing, and I think that's something that everybody has said we want to do. The question of choice is in some ways a little bit different from a policy perspective. And it gets down to what degree as a policy does the board believe in choice, whether it's alternative schools, for example, that we wanted to provide some choice. We said we're not going to have everybody go to the same school necessarily. We believe in that. So from a policy perspective, you would want to weigh in on what are your thoughts about any kind of choice that parents you feel should have, or children, the students themselves, in selecting the kind of pathway they are in. Now, that does not mean, to Allison's point, that we would say, oh, sure, pick any old course and take it, even though they have not shown mastery. They as educators, we say that is not a good place for them. Let's talk about that. But it's up to us to figure out, well, what would choice look like if that's something you believe is important to do? We would come back with something to share with you. So what we're really looking for today are what are the elements of a policy that give us guidance that might be, we're not going to get there for 5 years, but what we believe in is the following things. We believe ultimately there is one long pathway for everybody to go down. Some of them will get there quicker than others. We want that reflected in a policy because that guides the kind of pathway, or whatever we're going to call it, that guides us, right? So I just want to be clear, you know, your role in here is to help us craft a policy that feels like it grabs the imagination. It's philosophical and lofty in a sense that says this is what we believe and what we want our children to get when it comes to a math pathway, essentially, right? So I just want to make that clarification.
Yeah, I heard you, but I think I still have a concern on the word choice there.
Okay.
So because I don't know whether really truly how probably I interpret may not be the way which Jerry may be interpreting in that case. Voice I agree, but choice, because this can misguide my view. So choice is like very, like you have a variety of stuff now. Okay, 6 plus or 7 plus, whatever you are picking up. So when we creating this policy, probably we are giving a misrepresentation of that word choice there. That is, oh, you said there is a choice and I'm not able to choose. Or always the parent, or two types of parents, they prefer either my kid to be a master or they think the kid is a master, but not truly, in the other way too. So that probably, coming back to the flexibility, it become a little bit of a contradictory when you say that we are personalizing and flexibility, we are emphasizing a lot, but there is an option of choice also. I think, or probably I did not understand very well, the choice word is really, I think, misrepresent. I think it can misinterpret.
And what I'm saying is that you, as board members, you get to say, I get that these might be contradictory. We're asking you, staff, to come back with, is there a way, because we actually think both of those things can be important. Is there a way to do it? Because what I would say is there are ways to combine, if you had coursework that had teachers, I'll make something up. Teachers are going to keep, there's a group, you can choose to be in a class where a teacher keeps you for 3 years and gets you as far as you can possibly go on that, but you have to show mastery. But it's a choice for you to select that instead of being in a 6th grade Common Core or in a 6 plus and moving on to that algebra, that pathway, although generally they've been tracks, to be honest. So, there are other ways for us to model it if that's important. And that's where for me, we are so used to talking about the pathway, which in some ways is more a regulation and a way we go about it, which is for staff to put together and share with you. But what we need from the board is to understand, what do you believe is important from what you know in this community to have in a policy so that we can go off and create something to bring back. So I don't disagree with you that they can seem contradictory, but your job is to push us a little, and you can say, I want it all. I'm saying yes, I think, or you say, no, choice is not as important to me as I just want to go nothing but mastery. You show you can do this, then that's what you do, and that's where you are. And people getting to select a particular pathway or anything like that is not important, and that's okay. We just need to know where you are with it.
So is there truly a choice once the train starts?
Well,
good question. Yes. Yeah, and this can be a conversation this way.
I don't think there's a choice next year, but I think, like Craig said, there could be choices down the road. Choice is really important to me. I think parents should have some say in where their children are placed. But I don't think that a child who qualifies under our criteria to go into the regular 6th grade, and the parent says, no, this kid's really bright, I want him in geometry. Well, no, I don't believe in that. But I do think that there should, the kind of choice that he's talking about, where like a self-paced plan or something like that down the road, but I don't think we're ready to do it next year. But I do think it needs to be in the policy, because I think choice is important.
On your bullets, I think I've shared where I'm struggling on the big picture on the board policy is we're crafting a board policy that serves where we want to go and where we want to be, but we're also crafting a board policy that allows us to also continue to serve the kids who are already in our system. And so I guess where I'm still feeling like I need some more clarity, and maybe that's next meeting, maybe that's in the future, is around in the regs, which I like everywhere you're going with flexibility. I think spot on. But the concept of grandfathering and maybe clarifying out what that grandfathering looks like for all of our current tracks, because that's what they are, and they don't have a lot of flexibility. And when we're talking about, I think I get that we're talking about. I hate the word guarantee. We're saying that if you've been on that orange track, we're going to allow you to continue on that orange track. I think what comes to me is, okay, but now we're saying we're recognizing how important mastery is in this, and we now are going to have more data. I think it's like super important that we're offering personalized counseling back to those kids who are going to be grandfathered in, but who maybe are struggling a little bit more, to make sure we are supporting them with identifying those gaps in learning if that's what's showing up in mastery. You know, for the kids who are on green or who are on blue in our current, you know, to be fair in the way that we're saying fair and consistent now in our new policy, in the big picture, what is grandfathering for them, right? Because they may have been placed in tracks under an old placement mechanism that now grandfathering for them isn't a positive per se, the way that maybe grandfathering for orange track is. So
yes. I do think that my sense is that's something that would be appropriate for us to bring back next time, okay, after we bring back a second reading of a policy, because that's where we can kind of meld those and start talking about, well, what does that look like since we're in transition, yeah, grandfathering, or whatever it's going to be.
Transition's tough, right?
Yeah.
But I get where we're going with, I mean,
okay,
yes to the flexibility, then how does that fit into our kids who are in our system as well as kids who will be coming into our system? Yes to fair and consistent and mastery especially. But then again, you know, also that same question, I think the personalizing learning is absolutely great. And then as far as voice and choice, that's a tougher one for me to speak to what you were saying, Craig, in the sense that I'm absolutely on board with voice. Choice does become tough for me from the standpoint of, Phyllis gave one example of, we don't say to a 6th grader, yes, you can go all the way to geometry. You know, we don't say to a 1st grader, yes, you can just bypass all of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade and go straight to 5th if that's what parents think their child is ready for. So I do think I'd like to see choice in the policy, but I guess
choice tied to mastery, though. Yeah,
choice tied to mastery, choice within reason. I don't know what to call it. I mean, informed consent within reason, but not at extremes. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but yeah.
So I think if we believe that's important, we ask the staff to grapple with it.
Yes.
And bring it back. I mean, they know more than we do, right? They're the educators, so and we either like it or we don't.
Or a better word, probably choice is probably, I think, we all got the concept at least now, but is it like, are we, from a policy perspective, are we explaining it enough what it is, right? So it can get misinterpreted, misread.
Maybe we should also consider a better term. Maybe.
Yeah, but a term for choice.
The concept of the choice is one thing, but maybe there's a way to frame that is more appropriate and accurate to what.
That's what I think.
Yeah, okay.
That's my concern too. As we bring it back, also we can maybe help clarify that sometimes choice happens within the course. It doesn't have to mean choice of a course. So could be like a student setting a goal to master something that's not within the current grade level material, but maybe they want to make an individualized kind of little personal plan that they're going to work on and they're going to take it on, and that could be a choice to go further in towards a skill that maybe is beyond the grade level, for example. So I think we can grapple with it, and it doesn't have to be just the choice of the course. We could think about how could choice foster student ownership for learning.
And I guess what that brings up for me is I want to have clarity in the way that it's documented so that it is applied equally, because I think there sometimes is a perception, fair or not, that there's a different standard going on sometimes between different school sites, between different teachers, between different students, between different families, right? And I think having something that's consistent where we are establishing this concept of fair and consistent, right? Because it's
standardized across the whole district, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I know there's no one size fits all, but standardize in terms of so that everybody knows what that playing field looks like, and so that we're removing the burden from, everybody involved, right? We're removing the burden from families who may feel like it's not being applied fairly. We're removing the burden from teachers and principals who want to apply it fairly but maybe don't know how to say yes or no because it's not in our process currently well wrestled with. So, yeah.
Anything else, board members?
Yeah, so I had a lot of questions earlier this week, and so Allison, thank you for answering them on email. So I have two kind of thoughts right now. One is I did have follow-up questions for those, but maybe they are more implementation and less policy. But on the other hand, understanding some of that implementation would help me with, you know, understanding the policy and that direction. So just maybe I'll start with high level, which is looking at the 4 bullet points. Some feedback, I think, with the flexibility and not tracks. I think the concern I have with that right now is because the flexibility, the way it's being proposed, is that instead of it just being kind of placed up, now there's a chance that you could be placed down. Excuse me, sorry. I'm concerned that will create more stigma and more anxiety. Because I know right now, at least if you're in 6, 7, and then you take the placement test at the end of 6th grade, you're pretty much still going into, what is it now? Algebra.
7, 8 algebra.
No. Regular 6 can have the option of going into 7, 8, right? But if you're in 6, 7, you pretty much get tracked into the higher one, right? But then what you're proposing is that instead they might be tracked into the middle track instead of the third, the higher one, right?
I think for me it feels really tied to that mastery piece, that we just want to be sure it's the right fit and the kids are learning and feeling capable and confident and competent along the way. So we don't want, right now, this is something the teachers have said, that we sometimes do have kids who are really not learning the material, and they might be in the advanced class and maybe socially it might feel good, but maybe, you know, emotionally and kind of from a learning point of view, it isn't working. So we always are dealing with those things with one-on-one basis and with principals and counselors and parents and all of that. But the old current policy is we are not allowed to move a child down. And that's really a problem because sometimes that really is the best choice given all the factors. So we don't want to be locked into, you know, it has to be one way or the other. We just want to be able to make the decision that it is the best fit for that child. Right. Yeah.
Which I understand. I think similar to Satish's concern with the words, the word flexibility, I think, connotes more flexibility than I think what's being currently proposed. Right?
Okay, so I want to address that. So I agree completely, and I think the whole team agrees with that completely. But we can't create policies that, well, for this year where we are, this is what we want the policy to be, and then next year let's change it to, we're going to create a policy that says where do we want to be, but be patient and understand, well, what does it take to get us there? So I would prefer to make a policy that puts a stake in the ground, that makes it really clear what we believe, and then acknowledge that we're not there right away. And you can't just all of a sudden say, hey, next year, teachers, we want to do it differently. It doesn't work that way. And I get that. And believe me, if you look at some of our policies, there's a lot of things like that where, well, we're not there yet because it's aspirational. Policies are saying this is what we really believe and what we want to get to, right? And so, and then it's all these other things that you're going to come back, we will all together check and say, wow, that pathway doesn't actually do what we just said we believe in. And so how would we tweak it a little bit to make enough progress to feel good about what we are providing our children, and each year it's going to get a little bit better, and we will get there, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and I agree, like it should be aspirational in that sense, but I just want to note that that it's moving the needle just...
Not as much as you'd like?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Or I guess I just want to maybe caution when we give this, when we kind of announce this to the community, that we don't say this is flexible. It's more flexible, but it's not
That's
flexible.
I'm
You know what I mean?
I'm totally with you. Again, and there's
So-
nobody who disagrees with that. I
Yeah.
want to be clear. We have said the exact same thing. We do not believe, we are not saying that what we just provided you, in fact, we're saying the opposite. What we're showing you is an incremental change that is definitely better for kids. It will provide a little more flexibility, but until we put a stake in the ground on our policy, we are going to keep spinning our wheels, and we're going to have another year where we only do incremental, and another year where we only do incremental, because we don't have a sense of the vision.
Right.
What are we agreeing? What are you saying as the board that we want to have as our policy around placement in math in the middle school grades? And so we need this from you, and to be willing to say, let's just take that step and paint a picture for what we actually believe we want to have. And we'll address the issue of, that's right, we're really taking a pretty small step relative to where we really want to be.
Jerry?
Sure. I'd like to change the topic a little bit and talk about access, and maybe picking up on some of the sort of the aspirational themes to help me think a bit about the policy. So if you could go back to the picture of the, yeah. So first of all, I really like this. I think that this visualization of using color to show progress is much better than, it's like going down one of three paths and you feel like you're missing something. So I like this a lot. And I think I understand access to be someone can start at the top left and eventually end up at the bottom right if, things worked out a certain way. And I think that's really powerful and that's really great. And I want to talk about access, I guess, at a more not necessarily a macro level. So let's say you take the example of somebody in Math 6. All right, they're in Math 6. They're going through the curriculum really quick. So by the time we hit Christmas, they've already gone through everything in Math 6. Is the thinking then that we would provide them with Math 7 material? And the reason I ask this is I think in the aspirational world, you wouldn't have these vertical lines that denote this is Math 6, this is Math 7. It's really one continuous path. You go as far as you can, and you go on summer break, you come back, you pick up. But obviously, logistically, we can't do that, or at least we're not there yet in the near future. So I'm wondering, sort of in terms of this flexibility, where are we? And so the specific example I'm using to sort of motivate the question is, if I'm in Math 6 and I'm done with everything by Christmas, what happens in sort of at least the initial embodiments of our policy? Could you just share your thoughts on this? I know it's a hypothetical thing, but just help me understand where you are on this.
Keep going.
Keep going? Okay.
But really looking at it from, a personalized way. So students can still be working with their class and deepening their knowledge on the content that's being covered. There's many standards or mathematical practices that students can work on. So it might be that they understand conceptually all of 6th grade, but maybe they're not there yet in terms of their ability to have argumentation in math, or really just collaborate with each other. So there's all these other skills that are being developed that can be happening concurrently with being able to work at a personalized level on the standards that they're at, and then that ability to be pulled to work with their teacher in small group is where those needs would be addressed. That's a vision that we are going towards.
Yes, I mean, it is one of the places where we've had a variety of discussions about 6th grade. Should it just be one course? Should it be 2 courses? And I think this is one of those next steps that felt like the right next step for the moment, but we know that conversation will probably continue, because that's been really a part of all the groups. Is it really one class in 6th grade that stretches into 7th as kids are ready? And that's something that I think will be a part of the work as we begin and try things out.
But it sounds like aspirationally what we want is to provide the students with the opportunity to experience some of the 7th grade material. If they were, let's assume they've deepened their understanding. I certainly understand spending more time but let's say they're familiar with the concepts, they're ready to go to 7th. Aspirationally, we do want a system that would allow them to get exposed to that, even though they're not in the 6+ class, even though they're in the 6th class, they can somehow work with the teacher. Is that?
I think aspirationally, and I don't want to foreshadow this or make this seem like this is where we're going, but an example of that is if every math teacher of sixth graders actually was assuming I'm going to teach 6, 7, and move everybody at the pace, each person at the pace that makes sense for them to get there. But right now we kind of think of, oh, I'm a math 6 teacher, or I'm a 6+ or whatever. But if the idea is, yeah, I know how to do that. I can get them from this curriculum to here, and we'll see where each of them gets along that line. And then when 7th grade comes along, we have to make some determinations about what that looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So right now, where we are now is that the planned kind of whole group lessons, that core content in the 6th grade class would be 6th grade material, and the 6+ would be 6 at a faster pace with some of 7. But aspirationally, as we learn how to make this work, that's a question that was raised by a number of teachers and kids and parents. Yeah, so we'll see how we build that in.
And there are, other elements of like, what if the student is not quite there yet at Math 6? And so we're also looking at that. There's we don't want to forget about students that need some gaps filled and the support that's required to get there. So they're all different.
It's a very good point. I hadn't thought of the reverse situation, but you're right. That's something to consider also. So thank you for being on top of it.
And just last one.
Sure.
So I think I'm just. So is it like periodically you will have a placement test on these things, or it's a natural transition to the next level of it?
Assessments at each point along the way to check for mastery through the course, and then at that moment where we're getting ready for next course assignment.
And is it only one way, or it can go backwards also? What I mean is, like, let's say I'm in the 3rd line going on, okay? I think 3rd and there is no 2nd line there very much. But practically, let's say math, I'm already 6+, okay? I'm in the 7th, and 7 and 8 not able to continue. So would it be automatically, what will happen for such kids there? Like,
if they're really struggling with the 8th grade standards, perhaps, then the following year they can go and really work on mastery of the 8th grade standards in the Math 8 course. That is definitely a possibility.
So in a way, if I understand, they fall from that 7, 8 bar to 7 on the top.
That was what a student needed.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Sylvia.
Just to tag on to Satish's question about mastery, I know it's like 2 out of the 3 assessments if they meet the minimum or whatever the highest level requirements that allows them to move on. Where is teacher recommendation, or is teacher recommendation a part of that assessment as well?
Yes, we are working on that right now, but that is something that we're recommending in the board policy. And the way it's going to look, we haven't quite finished working on that, but we're very interested in that. Hearing from the 6th grade teachers, they really are quite interested in what the 5th grade teachers have to say. And so I think that that's very important to the teachers.
Yeah, so some of the areas that have come up in conversations about that are really around readiness for a faster pace. So some of those kind of work habit pieces that might not show up in a number that we would get from a test, but it's more what has that child's experience been as a learner in the classroom. So that's something that we're thinking about. How could we capture that and also be sure that we have really clear assessment criteria so that kids who are meeting the minimum are able to access the course. So we know that that's really important too.
Anything else in terms of direction, Lori?
One more. So it dawned on me as we were having this conversation at the highest level at the policy. So we have parent education in flexibility and personalization in terms of a how. Maybe we don't need that under mastery, but under social emotional, it would seem to me that that's another opportunity for parent engagement that I don't see in here right now. And I don't know how that kind of concept of a parent university or parent schooling, parent education opportunities, whatever we want to call it, is available. You know, I guess what's dawning on me is maybe we need a fifth bullet on those really big high level pieces, because I think that's so key in this community. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's part of the voice and choice. Maybe that's part of the personalization. It's already in the flexibility, but I don't know. It almost seems like it's big enough that it might be its own. Right, and
it has to be happening from early elementary, not once they get to middle school.
Yeah, and I know that's very much a work in progress for us, right? I mean, it's several years before we're looking at going back to elementary, but if we build it into the policy now, it becomes part of that framework. Okay.
We good?
I'd like to make one quick point.
No, wait a minute, you?
I do just want to say that I have absolute, complete faith in our math teachers. They are absolutely amazing, and everything I'm hearing about the process, and I just know that with us being clear that as long as we are providing the time, the resources, the professional learning that they need and want in a reasonable amount of time, we're going to figure this out. And it's just important that that's how we're coming at it, because they are the ones who can really help us get to where we want to be, and we're not going to do it without them. So we have to be patient and appreciative of the incredible work that they're doing.
I mean, I meant to say it last time, and I don't know if I did, that something that's new to this process this time is that I'm so thankful for seeing called out in the way it was, and I'd love to see in future curricula pieces that we bring before us, is this math teacher research team. I mean, these are our own local experts. They are embedded with our kids, right? Yes, we can rely on, and we should rely on expertise in the field, but these are our experts on our kids, and I think that's really key to having included in this piece, so I'd love to see more of that.
Thank you so much. You guys have worked tirelessly on this math, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, so I've lost track of my agenda. Here it is.
VTA letter.
So now we have the VTA letter that Lori kindly drafted for us. With help. Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns about the VTA letter? We agreed last time that we would support the efforts of the parent community to get VTA to put in a new route, or I think it's a new route. So.
And we did have one recommended shift, right? I think Jerry actually might have somebody raised it, and then I talked and I agreed with that. There's a sentence here at the last sentence of the penultimate paragraph that says, we are also precluded from seeking a commercial provider to create a fee-for-service option for these students due to contractual obligations we have with our employee organization, which just is not, it feels out of place. I don't actually think that's true per se, because we do fee-for-service programs right now with our buses. So and it just feels like we're blaming our wonderful,
not at all the way it was intended,
exactly,
so
that was not intended. I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it in that way. So I'm just saying, I think easiest is to just take that one sentence out, because I don't know how critical it is anyway. And I think other than that, it seemed pretty good. Yeah. Did you have anything to add to that or anything? No? Okay.
Did it? You're good.
But I know she's getting ready to actually edit it as we go, so that you can all sign it tonight, so we can get it to them tomorrow. Yep. So
if that is the only change, Renee has the newest letter with that removed ready. But if there's other things we want to change, I want to take notes on it, and then I'll go get it done so we can mail it off or send it off tomorrow.
So the sentence right before the one Craig's referring to that says, we do not have the funds or fleet capacity to provide the requested route, and we have with a school bus, should we just take out with a school bus and just say we don't have the funds or fleet capacity to provide the requested route, period? Because to your point, it doesn't matter what kind of bus. We don't have the funds, period, I don't know if that matters.
I don't know how critical it is one way or the other,
okay.
But I guess I would say the letter is ready to go. Maybe we just go with it, unless you feel it's important to do. Then.
How are the rest of you feeling about it? You want to go with it the way it is, just eliminate the one sentence about the unions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think are you good with that, Lori?
Fantastic.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie.
Appreciate the help.
You need a motion.
So we have to vote on that, right?
I don't know, wait, was that a?
It was just discussion.
With direction and.
No action.
What we hear is that nobody has a problem with signing that letter, and we'll send it out as a group. Yep, great. Thank
Okay, good. So moving along to 11.1, decreasing the number of certificated employees. We need a motion. Hello?
All right. I'll move 11.1.
Second?
Wait, are we is this
so,
a discussion slash action?
You do that at what?
We take a motion and then we discuss.
You have to put it on the table before we can discuss it.
You won't be asked to vote on it until you've had a chance to talk about
Right.
it.
I see.
Yeah.
So we need a second before we can go to discussion. I'll second. Okay. Discussion on this resolution, 11.1.
So we've had a number of speakers here talk about the TOSA at Eisenhower. I was wondering if we could get more information from staff on why this position was identified.
Yeah, well, I want to make a point. I thought they did actually a great job of making a point around they weren't saying, you know, necessarily we want the TOSA, although I'm sure they would. They're saying we need the intervention that has been being provided, and I would say it is on our docket to look at how do we provide those services, but we're worried about it not being treating one school different from others. We should be asking that question at all the sites for our students who require intervention, which is what the MTSS team is focusing on, is how do we do that in a fair way? And so regardless, nobody else has a TOSA anymore. This is the only one we have, and so we're just trying to correct. Is that accurate? Yeah, and so we're just trying to be consistent, and this is something we identified a year ago and said that, but we said we want to wait another year because they had a change in leadership, et cetera, but we're just following through with that. But I actually think we would agree, we want to look at intervention strategies and to take that seriously, what they were raising.
Can I ask a clarifying question to that, Craig? So I know LCAP is still coming for us, but it would seem to me that so much of the point that's being made here is, Eisenhower's I believe, our next closest school to being in Title I status that's not in Title I status. Part of this conversation would still allow for a recognition of our schools with higher needs?
That's right. We would distribute it fairly depending on the students who need it.
Thank you.
Not a school that needs it. The
Thank you.
students who require intervention strategy, which is what we're focused on.
Okay.
Right. So we will come back to it, but it's kind of different things, and that's why I think they did a great job of making that clear that they're related, but ultimately it's about worrying about services for our kids, which is what we worry about.
So does it mean that we are not going to have an individual school-based intervention specialist, or you'll have a common pool of people who would be supporting multiple schools?
That's not on the table to talk about right now. I just want to be clear. We're bringing to you the question of this position under the heading of following through with reducing that position, right? So that's the question at hand. I'm saying those other things that you're asking about are things that we have to talk about in a different way. Because this is not an intervention specialist position that we're talking about. That's not what this position is, technically, right? And I'm sorry, Stacy, is there anything else to add? I usually need her to correct half of what I say, so I'm going to give her that opportunity yet again.
I think just to clarify, the existing TOSA positions in the district, this is the only district-paid TOSA position. Montclair does fund TOSA positions out of their own site funding, so this is unique. It is a position we've looked at over the last 2 years and have slowly eliminated, held on to this as Eisenhower to kind of transition, so this is a unique position in the district.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 11.2, reduction of classified management staff due to lack of work or lack of funds. I need a motion.
I move to what is it? Approve 11.2, adoption of resolution 18-19-10.
And a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Jerry. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Now we have another action item. This is the tentative agreement between CUSD and the CEA. 12.1, I need a motion.
I'll move 12.1, ratification of the tentative agreements.
And a second.
I'll second it.
And Satish seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. 12.2, 18-19 school safety plans. We talked about these at some length at the last meeting. Is there a motion?
I move to approve these safety plans.
Jerry, a second.
Second.
Sylvia seconds. All in discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, carries. Board and superintendent activity and committee reports. Who'd like to start?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Satish?
Yeah, I have something coming up tomorrow, which I'll be going to Eisenhower tomorrow. We have actually celebrating Read Across America Day.
I'm doing that too.
Oh,
Good,
okay.
I'll see you there.
Oh, okay. So I'll be reading. I did not read for my kids actually, so hopefully I can do a better job there tomorrow.
Good. Okay. Anybody else have anything to report?
So this weekend is the county legislative brunch, and March 12th, before we're back for our next meeting, is the Legislative Action Day for CSBA, for the State School Boards Association up in Sacramento. So if anybody has anything they want to share before either of those that you'd like me to take.
And are you attending both?
I am attending
Good.
both, and happy to take messages forward to our elected officials, because our state officials will be at both. And then the County School Boards Association meeting last night, which I am the rep to, the presentation was from Alyssa Lynch, who is the superintendent of Metro Ed, talking about continuing technical education. And I will pass on, there is apparently some grant funding out there around CTE that does apply down as far as K-8, and it dawned on me as she was giving her presentation that perhaps for our STEAM stuff it might be something we could explore. So I will pass on the name of the grant program she was talking about. And I believe that's it.
Okay. Jerry, you said no. Sylvia, did you have anything?
Yeah, I did a site visit at Dilworth on Wednesday, and it was really good. It was just an interesting thing to note, and I brought it up with Craig, but just that their open enrollment numbers are really high this year, like up to 100. And that they're coming from neighboring schools, so just something to look into, I guess.
Sylvia and I attended the Enrollment and Facilities Committee meeting, and I just wanted to give you a little information about that. We got a ton of information about money and enrollment and kids in schools and all that sort of stuff. And we have a list of things we want to explore. The operative word here is explore. I hope it doesn't get out in the community that we're going to do any of these things, because these are explorations, but we're going to look at the Meyerholz-Clip program, the alternative and magnet schools, Stockelmeyer, boundary shifts, closing schools, and the district office. Those were the big themes that came out of that meeting. And right now, the only people on the committee are staff and Sylvia and me. So we're going to have a long meeting on March 11th, and that we're going to begin to talk about how and when do we expand that meeting, and with whom. And then there were some next steps that I wanted to share with you. The next steps are, who are we missing out of our committee? What other data do we need to have to make meaningful discussions about those items that I mentioned? And how do we engage the community to make sure that we're being absolutely transparent through this process? And then we'll be setting future meeting dates. So I'm excited about this committee, and it's going to be good, don't you think, Sylvia? Yeah. So that was a good thing.
And as part of that, we will set the multiple conversations for the board to have following all of those, so that it's real clear where, when we're coming to the board to have conversations as well.
Yeah. And then I met with Lynn about the reading pilot, so I had a chance to look at both reading series, and that was really, reading is kind of a hot button with me, so that was good. I did the human growth and development curriculum. The last town hall meeting was this week, and again, Allison and Leslie did a masterful job. It was a bigger group than we've had in the past. I think, what did you think we had, 15 maybe? Yeah, so it was a good group. And then I did 2 school visits this week, so I've been busy. So with that, I think we're ready to adjourn to,
Nope.
Oh.
I have one thing.
Sorry.
Superintendents.
I always forget you.
I know, I've noticed that. So I just wanted to follow up on committees, since that's part of this agenda item. And this is not for your 5 sites that you're assigned to that you are managing on your own already. We created a Google Doc that has one tab for each school. So if you want to, the principals picked a few dates over the course of the year that they would host visits from you all. So if you want to find a school that you want to go to that's not one of your 5, we're going to make this available. You just go in there and put your name. And then basically they know you're coming and they will host you, and that'll work out. They're still going to invite you to read to the kids or to come to events or whatever, but we wanted to provide an opportunity where they each had like sort of monthly, the time they could just block out an hour. They know they're available to talk to any of you who wants to come. So any time you want to just go in there and do it, we think this might be the easiest way to facilitate something instead of all the back and forth. And if it ends up you can't go, you just go in and you take your name off, and that's fine too. So we're going to share that, I assume. Is it about ready? Where are we on?
It is ready, although I don't know why that one of the schools is listed as sheet number 1. So I have to go back and check because we don't have a school named that.
Person of interest number 1.
I will share it with you either tonight or tomorrow. And then the hope would be, just to make Renee's job a little bit easier, is there are none scheduled for next week. But if you knew that there were schools you wanted to go see, if you could plug yourself in next week, then what Renee will do is she'll confirm with the principals and let them know that that's set. I think it's hard to, if you're all doing it on different days at different times over the next 5 months, it makes it a little bit harder for her to help manage it. The other thing is, what I'd like to be able to tell the principals is that once you sign up, so let's say you sign up to go to, I don't know what school this is, Dilworth, March 19th, and you want to go at 10, you put your name in there, just shoot an email to the principal saying, I signed up, I'm going to be coming, just so they know. They've blocked it off, but then they know who to expect when they walk in the door, because I don't think they will be checking this on a regular basis.
And should we also CC Renee on that so she doesn't have to check it every day or every?
What do you think?
I don't know.
I love hearing from you. Okay.
You get paid to say that.
So.
Right. And then if you were to have a sudden emergency come up, you were supposed to go to Dilworth at 10 o'clock and you weren't able to go, just shoot them an email and say, unfortunately, I'm really not able to go. I'll look for another date that works. Okay?
Sound good, guys?
For the schools that we are assigned, if we haven't set up dates, times yet,
Just reach out to the principal.
would it just be easier since they've already
Then
set
it gets
these
complicated because we're
Okay.
mixing the ones that we're assuming you're just managing on your own, your set of 5. So this is really specifically for, now it might be someday we say, well, maybe we do this with everything, but I don't want to complicate it right now. And so if you could treat that separate, that would be good. Yeah. It's what I told the principals we'd do. So.
Okay, anything else?
No, just agenda
Boss.
setting.
Okay, so we have agenda setting. Anything anybody wants on the agenda? You and I had talked about something.
This one.
Right.
Right, so there was a request for us to consider looking at a resolution, and just so you know, in general, we don't do a ton of resolutions unless it's clear that it could have a real impact on our children in some way. And so Phyllis and I received this one that's about fair funding, essentially, for children with disabilities, and it's a coalition of people who are trying to require additional funding for, in particular, special needs children. And it just seemed like one of those things, and we can't discuss it now, but we want to bring that And we said that we wouldn't bring resolutions without asking first if it seemed to meet the criteria of having potential impact, real impact for our children. And so we plan to bring it and want to know if that made sense to you all.
If you guys are okay, we'll put that as an agenda item.
I would like to see it. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Anything else for future agenda items? Doesn't sound like it. If you ever have any, just shoot an email to Craig and we'll make that happen. Okay, so we are going to adjourn back to closed session at whatever time it is.
Don't leave yet.